it's Jen one more time, and I'm going to talk to you today about how to get to Japan. I'm trying to do like a little series of like how to get to Japan or Korea, and I'm going to start with Japan. For those who don't know, I taught English in Japan for 4 years. So I also talked about living in Japan and being like a black woman in Japan with Trish, and you could go to her channel and check her out there and check out the interview that I did with her when I was living in Korea. So anyway, this video is about how to get to Japan. Okay, first thing first, you need a 4-year college degree. Now, they're pretty forgiving. It doesn't have to be in education, it doesn't have to be in English, although those are really good. You have an upper hand than most people, but it can be any major, just as long it's from an accredited university or college and it's a 4-year degree. Doesn't really matter what the major is, although education or English majors is a big plus. You're going to need a passport, obviously. Make sure it's up to date, it's been renewed, or whatever it is. Just make sure that you have a valid passport. A TOEFL or TOEFL. I hear people ask me this a lot, like if they need like a teaching certificate. And while you don't need it, it is very useful to have. And like I said, you already have an upper hand than most people if you have those things. Although you don't really need them in order to get the job. It does help your job, and it does make your job a little bit easier if you already have a leg up, but you know, it's not necessary in order to get to Japan. But those things help. So optional, TOEFL or TOEFL, or you know, always have your passport and have a 4-year degree from any college or university, just as long as it's a 4-year degree. Okay, so let's talk about where you need to apply to. The best bet is going for JET, the Japan Exchange Teaching Program. That's a government program that Japan has. That's the one you really want to go for because it's a government program and you'll have, you know, the benefits and the pay of like a government worker. Although you're not considered full-time, you still get better pay and better benefits than you would if you were to work for, say, like a dispatch company, which I'll talk about later. But the JET program, yeah, that's one you really want to go for. They pay for your flights to come there, and they pay for your flight to leave. At least the last time that I was in Japan, they did that. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I think one of the pluses of applying with JET is that JET really does take care of its employees. You get training, they pay for your flight there and back, like I said, and they just have a lot of programs set up for you so that you don't feel alone, or you know, if you're struggling, they help you with that. Overall, it's just a really good program to apply for. Those are the pros. Now, the cons about working for JET is that it is a year-long application process. And it is very, very competitive. If you, for some reason, don't pass the JET application process, then you have to wait an entire year before you can reapply. So that's the downside of it. If you're looking to go to Japan faster or more quickly, and if you miss like the application deadline for JET, or for some reason you don't get past the application process, then you may want to look into other options of how to get to Japan. But the best option is the JET program. Okay, I forgot to mention one more thing before I get into like the programs and stuff. Don't expect these programs to place you in big cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Sapporo. A lot of these government programs and dispatch companies and stuff like that, they send you out into the rural areas because that's where English is probably more needed. So yeah, unless you are fluent in Japanese, you've passed NIKU or higher on the JLPT, you're not really going to find jobs in large cities like Tokyo. just keep that in mind when you apply for these. You can find smaller cities. My first assignment was in a rural coastal city for 1 year, and then I moved and changed companies, and I moved into a smaller city, more inland, in the Guma prefecture, and that was fine. It had pretty much everything you needed, and if you wanted to go to Tokyo, for example, the train station had a bullet train, and you could, on a bullet train in 55 minutes you'd be in Tokyo. So yeah, just don't expect to be in large cities. Let's talk about dispatch companies. These companies, this is if you want to go to Japan quickly. Like, you need to get there quickly. Dispatch companies are good for that. When I applied, I applied with a dispatch company when I first went to Japan, and within a matter of months, I would say 4 months or so, from the application process to the interview to leaving for Japan. It took, probably about 4 months, and I was on my way to Japan. So it's a faster way to get to Japan. That's probably the only pro I can really say about dispatch companies, unfortunately. But dispatch companies, they don't really take into account the welfare of their employees. It's just the turnover rate for these companies are so extremely high because they tend to work you really hard. They send you out in the middle of nowhere. Usually in Japan, people don't speak English, obviously, they speak Japanese, and it's very difficult for people to, acclimate to that, and they just don't really help with that all that much. Also, the pay is not as well as if you were working for, say, JET, or if you're working directly for the Board of Education. Yeah, just not very good all the way around. Also, a lot of these companies just have poor management. I remember when I worked for a dispatch company, I had at least 2 or 3 people telling me to do the same thing every day. So you remember the movie Office Space, where he has like 4 people telling him what to do, the same thing. It's like that. Lots of bureaucracy, lots of poor management, and not very good pay and very little welfare for their employees. So there's that downside. However, you can apply for dispatch company, and maybe after you do your 1-year contract, or you could find other jobs in different parts of Japan, possibly with the Board of Education, which I'll get to right now. Okay, so direct hire is basically just working for your Board of Education. It's a government, job. So it's kind of the same as JET, except that it's JET but not JET. Basically with JET, it's a program government funded by the Japanese government, and they pay for your flight to come over and to leave, and it's a separate program. But with directly working for the Board of Education, it's kind of the same as JET. You get the same pay scale as JET, and you get the same benefits, roughly the same benefits as JET, but they don't pay for your flight to come or to go. But it's where you want to be. I worked for my Board of Education, and I did that for 3 years. With JET, you have a time limit, really. It's, I think, 3 to 5 years is how many times you can reapply for another year contract with JET. But depending on your Board of Education, I know with my Board of Education, I knew people working there who were working with the same Board of Education for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and I did it for 3. So with Board of Education direct hire, you probably get more leeway in that sense, that you can reapply and work for as long as you want. So yeah, if you are currently in Japan and you work for a dispatch company, or you work for JET, and you want to stay where you are, and you want to continue doing the job, look into direct hire positions with your Board of Education and try to do that. Okay, so things that will help you with living in Japan. Here are some things that you can do, or things that you can bring with you that will help you a lot when you're living in Japan. Number one, learn some basic Japanese. Anything, like if you can learn how to read at least hiragana, katakana, a little bit of kanji goes a long way. An international driving permit, even if you have an assignment where it doesn't require driving, it's always good to have the international permit just in case you might want to rent a car or even buy a car when you're in Japan, just to help you, because again, you're most likely going to be placed in a very rural area, and you're going to be dependent on those who are lucky enough to have a car to take you into town and to get things and stuff like that. So it's a good idea to get an international driving permit. Okay, so another thing you can do to help make your life easier in Japan is by keeping an open mind. Try new foods. Japan has an amazing food culture, and yeah, if you keep your mind open to it, you can really experience a lot of delicious new dishes that you just don't see anywhere else, you know? I remember when I first tried horse sashimi, which is basically raw horse, and just being totally put off by it. I was like, oh no, horse. But when you try it, it's really, really good. So, you know, keep an open mind, try new foods, and you know, if you don't, you're gonna be missing out on a really cool experience. So definitely give new foods a try. Also, try new places, new experiences. Don't just stay in your one area. It's really easy sometimes to just kind of lock yourself away, especially when Japan becomes too much, to kind of just lock yourself away in your apartment. But you know, it's good to get out there and to see the rest of the country, because Japan's a gorgeous country. You know, go to Kyoto, go to Osaka, go to Sapporo, go to Okinawa, go to Fukuoka, see the rest of the country. Also venture outside of Japan, visit other countries. When I was in Japan, I went to Korea, I went to China, and I went to Taiwan, and they were awesome experiences. So you're in such a close vicinity to so many other countries, it would be a shame to like not go out and see that. So definitely, you know, experience new places, experience new foods, and just keep an open mind. Japan is a very, very different country from the Western world, and it's really good to just not bring that Western baggage with you, and to just kind of keep an open mind, and whatever may happen in Japan, just remember that you're a guest in this country. This is in your country, so a lot of things that aren't okay in the West are kind of seen as okay here in Japan. So, you know, just keep that in mind and enjoy yourself. If you have any more questions about how to get to Japan, anything that you would like me to address or talk about, just mention it below in the comments, and I'll either comment in the comments or I'll try to make another video to answer your questions. Thanks for everything, and see you next time. Bye.